Welcome back, War Room fans. Here we go. The attack plan 4. This is going to be my last attack plan video for Japan. And I'm thinking I'm going to do like a closing discussion strategy thing about Japan. And then we're going to move on from Japan for a while. So I think I've laid out enough attack plans to kind of get you guys thinking, get your tactics and strategy juices flowing. So attack plan 4 is the Let's Go After America plan. Now at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a bonus video that's going to be attached to it because I was on vacation 2 weeks ago. I was on a cruise ship in the Caribbean. So I actually brought the little mat, not the mat, and I brought all my pieces for the Asian or the Pacific map with me. And what's going to be interesting is when you guys see at the end of the video, I laid it out on the cruise ship and I actually had to stop doing the video. There was so many people coming by, totally intrigued by the map, how it looked, the whole concept, this war room thing. I mean, I was having people sitting there with me for like 15 minutes just discussing the game. They'd never seen this. It was mind-blowing to them. So once I'm done with the attack plan 4, I'm going to put that video, I'm going to upload that video too on top of it. So you can kind of see how far I got before the insanity ensued on the cruise ship where I could no longer keep doing my videos. So I think that's just props to Larry Harris and his development team, especially the guys who made the map and the little pieces. I know some guys have been saying, oh, there's little Lego pieces. But for the general population, they loved it. They thought this game looked mega awesome. So I think that's just props to the development team and a Nightingale, and they made just a visually aesthetic, beautiful game. The people who have no idea what you and I are doing, nerding out on these strategy things are doing, they just look at it and go, it looks so cool. So actually looking back on it, maybe I should have brought the whole game with me and just set it up and put a sign out, say, hey, who wants to learn how to play War Room? And maybe just played War Room with some random dudes on a cruise ship. Because we definitely had a lot of downtime. We could have done it. But okay, enough of that. Let's get down to business. So, attack plan 4. Let's take it to America. Okay? Well, right off the bat, it is definitely set up down here in P19 that we can come in. I really need to get a command staff. I'm going to need a lot of command staff action on this video, I think. So let me go get a command staff. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. Got the command staff. So there's 2 attack plans that on the J or the attack plan 4, there's 2 ways. You go up to the northern route or you go the southern route, okay? The attack plan, though, is based on we want to engage the Americans. That's the whole purpose of the attack plan, is to get America really worried about Japan coming at them, okay? So let's just lay out the obvious plan, okay? The obvious plan is our first turn, we're going into here, okay? Now, do we think America's going to bid some oil and maybe have the 4th move out? Okay? I don't know. Based on my experience of playing with my specific play group, the 4th doesn't usually bail out of there. They're hanging out because they want to support the Solomon Island attack. So they leave the 4th there so they can get their carrier plane in there, bring the 73rd, the 15th up here. So the normal opening move from America is they bring the 15th up and have the carrier support, okay? Because Japan usually brings in the 12th off the Carolines and then support their guy in here, okay? So I'm actually thinking that Japan on the opening turn should actually bid 0. I take that back. Maybe they should bid 1. Just so they can get behind the United States. Because one of the interesting things about this is there's going to be a play here. Okay? Because remember, we're starting the game off. We don't, no one knows their intentions. No one knows what the plans are going to be by each side. So by bidding to go last, you kind of force the Americans to make a choice, when they're writing their orders, because they're always having to think in the back of their plans. Because remember, the bid doesn't come out until after you've written your orders. So that adds an interesting dynamic of player dynamic. Like the American player's, feeling out the Japanese player. What is he going to do? Is he doing the India crush? Is he just gonna build up? Is he going after Russia? Is he going after China? What's he gonna do? Okay. So I'm actually thinking the American player is looking at Japan, and he has so many options that I don't think he's really overthinking it right now. I think he's just gonna go, Japan's just gonna, under normal circumstances, just gonna do a normal, opening Japan move. Maybe go into China a little bit, reinforce Southeast Asia, move some guys around. So I'm actually thinking on the opening turn, you could actually bid to go 0. That way you save up your 7 oil for your initial bid, okay? But here's what we're gonna do, regardless of the United States does, okay? So the first move, the third's coming in. The 4th off of P14 is coming in, okay? So right here, we're jamming in. We've got some power here on surface naval. We're just gonna ignore the Solomons. We're bringing in the 12th, okay? So right here, I'm gonna kind of lay them on their side so we can see them. So if those are your opening 3 moves, and the United States does send the 15th up here, okay? You've got a battleship, a carrier, 3 cruisers, and 2 subs against a carrier, 2 cruisers, and a sub. That's an advantageous combat. You want that all day long. You don't even worry about it, okay? So we've made 3 moves. 5th move, off here, off of P15 off screen. We're bringing them down here. We're coming into P18, okay? Even if, let's say Australia sometimes brings off their planes, just in case. Well, you got a battleship and a cruiser against a cruiser, a sub, and 2 fighters. That's about an even battle right there, but that's fine. We're just trying to kill those British ships. The whole goal of this Go After America plan is to kill ships. That's what we want to do, okay? Because if you kill their ships, what that makes America do, just on this opening turn, America then has to build ships in the Pacific, okay? That's a key to this game, because if you just want to be passive against the United States, they're never going to engage their Navy until they're absolutely ready. So they'll bring over the 3rd, they'll bring over the 2nd, so they'll form this huge naval stack. They'll get all their air power over. And so basically what they're going to want to do is just play passive for the opening couple turns. because then they can load up on eastern United States to send everything against Germany. You have to force the United States to spend some of their resources in naval power and air power. That's one way that Japan can really help out Germany, is that America, on these opening forces over here, that for the first like 5-6 game turns, that's all they ever use. They never really build any units on the West Coast. They never have to build new air units. They never have to build new naval units. They're just basically putting all their production against Germany. And that's one of the weaknesses. If Japan never over here goes after the United States, because of the way the victory conditions are, the United States just has to hold off on Japan. That's all they have to do. They can literally put like all their production against Germany unless Japan forces them to put production on the Pacific map, okay? If you've been watching my video series, you've noticed in like the first 4 games we played that I put up on video, it's almost like the United States doesn't even have to even really react to Japan. Just use your initial forces, just tie them down, and just start going right at Germany with all your production. So Japan's primary goal on this attack plan is let's go ahead and blow them off down here. So I've moved 3 stacks here, 1 stack here. Okay, so that's 4 moves. 5th move, the 1st is coming down, okay? 6th move, 44th is coming down, okay? So now we have a 6 stack with the 1st. Now remember, this is a combined stack, which gives them a lot of power in naval, because the United States won't be able to overwhelm them with force advantage. Okay, so we've moved 1, 2, 3, 4. We've moved 6 guys. Okay. 7th move, we're going to bring the 11th down. Okay. That way we also have air cover. The 11th is going to bounce up the Wake. Okay. Because the thing about Wake Island is it can hit all the way down here into Australia. It can hit all the way up into P3 off the screen. Wake Island is a really juicy target on the north end, okay? The Gilbert Islands, on the other hand, is a juicy island to land on if you want to project power down to the southern regions with air power, okay? Because remember, it goes back to my video on air power. Projecting land-based air power is a big function of this game. You have to get them in nice areas where you're making your opponent constantly thinking, okay? That's the other thing about the Marshall Islands. Notice the Marshalls is in the middle of these, so it's a dual threat. The problem though with the Marshall is it can't hit over here. It can only hit this region, okay? So wherever you land your aircraft, it kind of, if you playing against a really intuitive US player and watching what you're doing, this will kind of tip your hand a little bit on where you're landing these guys. If you land them in the Gilbert, or if you hold the Solomons, you're kind of tipping your hand that you're going down here, okay? If you land your aircraft up here, you're kind of tipping your hand that you're planning on something up here, because the guys in Wake can't hit down here. So the Marshalls, notice also the Marshall Islands, they can't hit P-18, okay? So these are the 2 sea zones. There are sea zones. These are the 2 land areas that if you land guys here, you're tipping your hand, you're going up here, but you're not going down here. You're trying to hold this part of the sea. If you land on the Gilberts, well, you're coming down in here because the Gilberts can't get up to P3 in Alaska, okay? So just keep that in mind. as I'm saying, guys, this is a lot of, you kind of have to know who you're playing and how intuitive he is on how the game plays out. Because if you're just playing against a guy who, hey, I'm relatively new to the game, or you're just playing even against an experienced player, but he doesn't really care. He's just kind of like, whatever. This whole America-Japanese thing is kind of fun to play, but it really doesn't matter. Then he might not even care where you land your airplanes. He might just say, whatever, I don't care, because I'm just moving my guys over here, doing my plan, regardless of what Japan does. Okay, so we've moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've moved 7 guys. Okay. Now, part of this plan also is we're committing a lot of stuff to basically down to the southeast Pacific, which means over here we're just hanging out. So we're at the whim of the Allies over here on what they do. Okay, so we got 2 moves left. The most important part of this side of the field or the board is India. So the 8th move, we're bringing the 14th off the Philippines. They're going to Indo, okay? Just in case China comes down with the 102nd down into there, okay? 13th, they're flying down to J5, Hong Kong, just in case China comes in there. On the rebase at the end of the turn, they're all moving down into Thailand, okay? So you're forming up a huge air wing, okay? So if India and China do the classic Burma crush, so they came down and did the Burma crush. You now have 2 strat bombers down here. You punish India. You just start sending the bombers in. You reorganize these guys into a bomber stack and a fighter stack. The fighters stay in Thailand to defend. The bombers just go straight into India. Because the British player is most likely going to send his guys in there trying to think he's getting on top of you. Okay? Okay, guys, let's jump back over here to the big showdown over here, okay? Realistically, you're going to take this fleet out, okay? Even if it turns into a contested zone, they're not going to have they'll just have like 1 guy left, okay? Now, let's just go through the turn 1 scenario. Let's just say the 4th did dip out. Let's say the 4th dipped over here to P10. The 3rd comes over. These guys come over, okay? So they form up their fleet into 1 huge stack. So they got 7. They got 10 naval vessels sitting here, okay? Plus they're gonna have their air cover, which most likely would be down here, depending on how they do it. We definitely know the guys coming off the west coast are going to be here. But the guys off Hawaii are going to be here. So the guys off Hawaii might be down in New Zealand. The guys off of Midway might be down in New Caledonia. Okay? We don't know exactly where they're going to put them. But let's say you whiffed. So here's now what we're looking at. So here is the situation now. After turn 1, okay? Everybody's fleets are intact, okay? Let's assume down here that you take out the British and all you have left is a battleship, okay? That's all you got left down there, okay? So up here, you have a 4 stack, a 4 stack, and a 3 stack, okay? So you got 11 facing off against 10, okay? This is important because remember, we have the 44th sitting out there, okay? Now, on the second turn, we've got some choices, okay? And I really think the choice should be, let's take the fight right to P10. Let's not play around with the United States on this plan. Because the United States is going to, they're going to start looking up there and go, well, the 44th can then come in here into P18 for the invasion, right? So the United States might be thinking, well, we need to get our guys over there ASAP. And then they're going to try to move all their guys into P19, plus they're going to bring in all the air power to P19. They're hoping they're going to just force this huge naval battle, okay? Once again, it comes down to, what do you think we need to do on bidding oil? Because we have two choices. The first choice is you bid 0 and you just play defensive and move the first down. Let's just say the 12th landed on the Gilbert, the 11th landed on Wake, okay? So you move the first down, you move the 11th and 12th down. So that's 3 moves. With the 44th, we don't even take any chances, and we just write orders to go on one of these 4 islands. I would recommend Marianas, but that's up to you. Because remember, regardless of what happens, the 44th can always land on the Marianas, Wake, Marshall, or Gilbert. They can't pin them. Okay? So that's if you're playing, I just want to bid 0, see what the U.S. is going to do. Okay? Now, let's say we're going to play aggressive. On that second turn, we're going to bid something like in the order of like 5 or higher. We're going first regardless, unless the U.S. just feels it coming and bids higher than us. We're then going to jam this entire area, okay? We're going to send in the 3rd. We're sending in the 4th. We're sending in the 1st. We're sending in the 11th and 12th. We're sending in the 44th, okay? Now, these guys are going to be in one combined stack, so that's 1 move, 2, 3, 4. That's a 5-move attack plan, okay? Now, if the United States didn't see that coming, this air power over here is not going to be sitting back here. Heck, I would doubt even the 13th is up in this sea zone, okay? So we got a 1 naval advantage, plus we have all that air power coming in. Okay? Now you got the United States' attention. Okay? This is not going to be a battle where you're going to blow these Americans off. The Americans are going to have a couple of these ships left. And you're only going to have a couple of these ships left. Hopefully you have more than they do. Okay? So, you've got the attention of the United States, but here's what's going to happen then, is that at the end of this combat round, in theory, you'll have more naval vessels than they do. The Allies have now no naval presence in the Pacific. You own the Pacific, okay? So on turn 3, you could, if you wanted to, split the 44th into 3 command stacks and take Midway, Johnson, and Samoa, okay? Now you go, well, why would I want to do that? Well, air power coming off the United States is now completely cut off. They can only go 1, 2, 1, 2. They can't land on New Zealand anymore. They can only get out to the Hawaiian Islands. They can only get up to Alaska. You have completely cut off Australia for the following turns, okay? The other idea is, instead of playing on turn 3 conservative, cutting them off, is then you finish this battle, but then you break pinning, okay? And then you bring the 44th here with whatever extra unit. You might only have 1 naval unit with them. And you go right at Hawaii, okay? Or you break pinning, with one naval vessel and you come up here and try to take Alaska. Okay? The whole idea here is, guys, you're making the United States now all of a sudden having to build in the Western United States. They're having to build naval. They might have to build some air. They're going to have to build land. These are things not going against Germany. Okay? This is really important because what you did was, with your opening turn forces, you pushed the United States back. You have to make them start doing something against Japan because the 44th is a 6-stack. And the United States cannot just sit there and go, well, it's just a couple of units, because if they're not respecting it, then on, let's say, turn 2, you build some land units, they come off on turn 4. You can literally start reinforcing Alaska. You can reinforce Hawaii so they can't take it. Midway is a nice spot for air units because notice air units, land-based aircraft cannot hit Hawaii off Western United States. Midway can. If you think if they bring in their invasion fleet, you can reinforce it. They can reinforce up into here. It can attack any builds. If they only build, let's say, 3 naval vessels, you can send in air power. It's a very powerful area, okay? Let's come back over here, okay? Because remember, one of the big things I always talk about is flex in your plans. This is our opening move. Let's just say everything's going good. Well, we still got our battleship in P-18. Australia is barren naked, okay? Turn 2, depending on what's going on over here, we still have, even if we pushed everything in here, that's 5 moves. We still have 4 moves over here. So we can send in our air power to India for 6. And heck, you could even go, let's dump for 7, 8, and 9. You now have 3 artillery and 5 infantry in P-13, okay? Threaten the invasion of Australia. If you're really feeling pressured over here, you can dump them into P-14 and bring them into Southeast Asia, okay? You have extra moves, depending on what's happening up here in China. Maybe we go ahead and start pushing into China. Let's rely on our air campaign in India to kind of give them pause, and we start going after China. Get C1, get C2, come down there and get C3, or up there in C4. You know, so we're leaving enough commands that we can at least do some offensive operations on the other side of the map, okay? One of the weaknesses I'm finding is as you've seen in these videos, is when a nation does an all-in attack, it kind of like builds on itself. The second turn, you feel like you have to do a secondary all-in push to kind of get over the hump. So like if you watched Game 4, when Japan went into Russia, we had setbacks. We lost all our guys. So then it was on the opening attack. Now we destroyed all the Russians, but it was like game turn 2. We had to send in like another all-in, put all our commands in one very specific focused area. This is bad in war room. Because the minute you start doing that, then because of the 1-turn delay mechanic of the game, you're getting caught behind the 1-turn delay, and it takes you like 2 turns to respond. 3 turns if you're having to rely on builds to respond, okay? So that's the whole thing about the J4. You know, we talked about, Bryce and I did on the Russian thing, doing the Northern Front. The problem with the Northern Front is you're still being kind of passive to the United States. They can kind of dictate to you what they want to do. Like you can land in P2 And the United States can still just go, whatever, we're just moving all our guys down here. We're going to make sure that Australia doesn't fall. We're going to start threatening over here. And then you're almost like in the lurch up here. Well, do we do the Russian thing or do we go to P3? But if you go to P3, then the United States can go, well, now that you're in range of their land-based aircraft, depending on how they're looking at it, now you're at a disadvantage. So I really do think on the opening couple turns, the whole point of the Japanese Navy, these 3 stacks, is to kill the Americans. Damage them as much as you can. Hopefully kill them all off. This guy here, the 5th, if let's say he's successful and you're not going to do the Eastern Australia attack, I realize it's just 1 unit, but maybe go ahead and sacrifice 1 command and get him back over here to support the guys over in I-9. Okay? Just bail out. Now, you could, in theory, just sit there in that C zone and have Australia just keep sending bombers and fighters at them. Same thing with America. But he probably won't last long, so I don't think you should just sacrifice a battleship down here. Okay? So if the focus on the J4 is America, specifically, let's knock out these ships. Let's make America have to actually build stuff over here and stop the, let's just put everything against Germany and not even worry about Japan. So this will work, but you have to think about it a little bit, and you have to start bringing these guys off, building guys. You have to make them, I mean, you really have to make them respect it. So instead of just sending these 3 guys here to reinforce Southeast Asia, you know, they're all sitting up here, then maybe you take them up to P2. Because now all of a sudden you got like 16, or you got 14 land units coming out of America. Now, you definitely got their attention now. Okay? Because remember, at the end of the day, you can't take Hawaii, you can't take Western United States, you can't take Alaska unless you have land power. So, on game turn 3 and beyond, you know, we're in the gray zone here. I don't really know how to proceed. You just have to use your game experience. But it goes back to the whole idea I did on my earlier Japanese videos is, if the attack plan 4 is your plan, you keep going at America. You keep bringing up your reinforcements. You keep pressuring them. You build some more naval units to replace your losses, maybe an air unit or 2, and you keep coming at them. And you just do the best you can with 2 or 3 commands over here to just keep fighting as much as you can against China and India. Okay? And you just hold them off. Because at the end of the day, remember guys, as we talked about in the very first Japanese video, at the end of the day, it's all about Germany over here taking Moscow and Great Britain. The best way Japan can help them is tie down the British, and in this plan, let's really tie down America so that America can't just put everything in on the European theater and just start sending land stack after land stack after land stack against Germany, and they don't even have to worry about building naval power anymore. So that's where we're going to leave it. And then at the end of the video, don't give up yet, guys. I got my bonus content coming from the cruise ship right after this.
Welcome back, War Room fans. Yep, here it is in all its glory. The Pacific map. So, I'm sitting here relaxing on the Carnival Freedom cruise ship out in the Caribbean. I got my War Room shirt on. My son is taking some photos, or attempting to. Oh, it's so rough playing, you know, doing strategy out in the Caribbean. Look at my new shirt, my my niece got me. I got a War Room customized shirt. It's awesome. So I figured, what the heck? Let's just load it up, bring it on the cruise ship, and do a video or two. You know, there's a lot of downtime on a cruise ship. So let's get the action back to what the fans want. They're already jealous, and they don't want to look at my ugly mug.
Should I go over to the other side?
Yeah, so why don't we bring it down around here? You know, you could have probably paused the video so that they didn't have to to witness you at your buffet meal that you're eating right here.
It's okay. They're getting the experience.
They're getting the experience of the cruise ship. Okay. So we were talking about Attack Plan 4, guys. And on the last video, we talked about the northern route. Let's push them up here in the top. Okay. So basically, Japan has really two options when they're coming at America, I think. So I'm gonna lay out both the plans, and then I'm gonna kind of combine the plans into like one big attack plan. And you guys determine, you know, what's the better way. One direct approach, there's two, or kind of let's diffuse our power a little bit and then merge somewhere over in here, okay? So remember the first plan, so let's start at the basics. Let's continue on that last video. So the last video that Bryce and I did, it was a combination of, you know, moving troops up here into P2. So you could threaten Russia on that opening turn. So you kind of you can go either way. But then on the second turn, you move in over here into P3. So now you threaten Alaska, Midway, Aleutians, okay? You'll also be bringing up support. It's like you could bring the 11th off to Wake Island. So the 11th can support all the way out to P3. So now you have land-based air support, okay? If you look at the Americans on this side of the board, their biggest threat is actually their land-based aircraft. The Navy, like if we brought up, let's say, the 3rd, let's say you just kind of bailed it, and you just made the Americans down here have to choose to go in here, but you keep bringing up force in naval power, well, these two stacks can take on these American stacks. You're about parity. But what's going to tip the scales is these land-based aircraft. So we need to start getting land-based aircraft. And that's where these little islands start coming into play. Like you could stack the 11th and 12th. Now you have, you know, like 2 bombers, 3 fighters sitting there. So now you have some respectable strength in air. You could even dump, let's say, the 13th off. I mean, you could start bringing in some serious air power, okay? One of the things about it is I'm going to separate some of these things out, and I'm going to show you so that's the idea, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to separate this air, because I think for this plan, we have to separate the air. So go ahead and pause it. Okay, guys, so I kind of reset it. So let's look at it this way, okay? The traditional, when Japan, their original plan was to pressure down here, cut Australia off from America, which is a good plan. Now we can actually pull this off in the War Room. But one thing I like about this game is that you can build flex into what you're doing. You don't have to actually do the historical plan. So what I mean by that is we want to engage the Americans, obviously, down here in P19, okay? So let's just go ahead and take the fight let's focus in here, but I'll show you how we're going to build some flex where we can jump the attack plan over here, okay? So the first thing we're doing is we're going to obviously engage the American Navy here. It's important that we bid to go first so that we can pin these guys. So the first step is we obviously come down here. That's the first move. Second move, we bring in the 4th. That's the second move. The third move is let's go ahead and pin the 8th with the 15th. Let's just have, you got the advantage. You got a battleship down here. So that's 3 moves. 4th move, let's go ahead and bring in the Air Force. Okay? 5th move, we're going to go ahead and we're not going to bring it in. I know you're tempted to, but we're not going to bring it in. We're gonna load up here into P12 with our reserve Navy, okay? We don't want to fully engage here. We actually kind of want to pin them down. Obviously, just total destruction would be awesome, But really the goal here is let's focus. Let's make the Americans have to focus here, because then the first, we have a fully undamaged fleet ready. So if the third comes over in reserve, these guys can bounce on P20, okay? Because we're gonna bring down the 11th, okay? It's gonna be sitting, it's gonna be sitting out here in P12, okay? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 7 moves, okay? So that's what we're gonna do down here. Now up here, plan is over here in India. We're not actually gonna try to take India. What we're gonna do on the Indian front is we're just gonna try to blow up all their factories. We're gonna put the pressure on them. We're just gonna do an air campaign on India, trying to blow up those factories. So our 8th move is bring the bomber down to Thailand to set up for turn 2. And our 9th move is bring this guy down, and we're gonna form these guys up into one huge air wing, okay? So we got a huge air wing, two bombers, 3 fighters, okay? Their goal is to knock out India, okay? Now, down here, it's very possible that the 15th is gonna be coming into here. So we definitely have the advantage here, okay? The only problem is that the 15th comes in here, there's a good likelihood that you're gonna lose the Solomons. Losing the Solomons is important because that's the air base to strap bomb Australia. Because the plan isn't to take Australia, but it'd be nice if we could blow up all these factories. So if we blow up all these factories and all the factories in India, well then the UK can't help America out, okay? We just contain the British down here, and off we go, okay? We're switching the gimbal here a little bit because my kids are taking off to the Grand Buffet. Shocking, isn't it? Okay? So, the Americans do the expected, which is come out here to the Solomons. We definitely have the advantage right here, okay? And we didn't even have to bring in the first. So that's really good, because that gives us what that flexibility I'm talking about. So, the thing about it is now this first with that 44th, our big stack, on their second turn, they can actually come up here to P3, okay? With all this power, okay? You're gonna wanna land that guy down here. I'm thinking we're gonna wanna land them in Wake, okay? Because we wanna get those fighters up there to help out, okay? Now, the Manchurian guys, I split out the initial one. You're gonna have an air token on here. I just don't have all my stuff with me, but these guys will be ready for turn 2, so then they can come out on turn 2 to help reinforce off of Wake. Because Wake is the key island for up here, because then it allows you to get guys to defend the P3 zone, okay? Because on turn 1, the most likely scenario is the Americans are gonna start getting aggressive. They're gonna start bringing their air. They're gonna start bringing everything down here, okay? So if on turn 2 we go up there, well, the most likely scenario is we've won this battle. The 4th is gone, okay? If not, they have like 1 ship left. We've taken some casualties, but the 3rd now, they're coming in, but we can still tango with them with whatever we have left. Or if you're inclined, you don't even have to go up to P3. You just go P12. You just keep your guys down here, in Wake. Because notice Wake Island can hit all these places down here. So then on the second turn, then you can bring in the first here. We'll say we land the 44th here. Just to kind of, it's up to you. I mean, you can just keep them at sea on turn 2. And then these guys come down, they provide air cover, because the chances of them going after the 44th is slim. I mean, they got bigger problems. They got Navy bearing down on them. So it's up to you on what you want to do with the 44th on that second turn, okay? I mean, you could, if you really wanted to, we could just say, let's go ahead and go into Australia. But that's what you want them to think. Remember, the plan is we're going after America, okay? So now that we got the Americans all tied up down here, you know, let's just stick with this south plan. So we come in here, whatever we have remaining, let's just say the third is left. So they can come over here. These guys are wiped. I don't know what's going to be down there. It's probably be a contested thing, but we've pretty much well mopped up the south. Okay. So then the Americans, now they got all their air power down here too. That's going to be a real issue in this battle in P20 though. Because remember, the 16th and the 17th are most likely going to land in New Zealand. Well, that's where they're going to land. Okay. So the 3rd does have a lot of, you know, air cover. Because remember, that land-based air cover is the problem. Okay. So that's why I was saying, oops, the 1st here is, you know, you leave whatever's here, and that's when you bounce to P3. Okay. Because now all their guys are trapped down here, okay? So now you're threatening Midway, Aleutians, and Alaska, okay? So that's the northern route. Now notice down here, Midway, Johnson, Atoll, and Samoa. If you take those 3 islands, America can no longer shuttle planes over. Because out of Hawaii, they can't, you know, they're going to come off Hawaii, they're going to land in P10, and then they come over here. So then you can also hit then you also have to hit New Zealand. So that's part of the southern plan. Okay? So that's what we can do there. Okay?